Hello, your poofy-haired professor back again with another video on how to draw the human face. I don't think I want to stick with poofy-haired professor for my stage name, but I haven't come up with a better one yet. So for the time being, um, today we are going to look at the basic proportions of the face, but I thought we could do it in a little bit different way from the last one. We're going to draw a face from the imagination. So I used an iPad and a digital stylus to just come up with a face totally from imagination using the basic proportions. And what I hope to show you is that as long as you use these basic proportions for drawing a human face, it will look believable. It will look like it, human, right? And that's what we're aiming at when we're just starting to learn portraiture is first, make it look human. Second, make it look like the person it's supposed to look like. But starting off, just want to learn how to make a face that actually looks like a believable human. So let's check out these proportions. So here's my artboard, and the first thing we're going to do is draw a circle. I'm drawing it up there. It's pretty light. You want to keep it light with your pencil. You don't want to make dark marks in the beginning. So you draw like a circle. This circle is basically meant to be the cranium. The cranium is basically the brain case of the skull. So there is a circle in the head. It's the cranium, but the head isn't really a circle. It's more like add this ovalish, it's more like an egg, like an upside down egg, right? So you add this kind of ovalish, pointy ovalish shape, egg shape, and then you have pretty much the basic shape of the head. Next thing you want to do is to draw a vertical line bisecting this shape, so going from top to bottom right through the center. This is going to help us keep the face symmetrical, and that is the most important thing that we need to do. So after that, we want to find the center of this vertical line. It's pretty easy to find the center of a line. Usually we can cut a line in half pretty well. So just using your eyes, you don't have to measure, find the center of that line as best as you can, and draw a horizontal line like I've just done here. That will be the eyes. That's the placement of the eyes. The next one, you look between the eyes and the chin and go halfway and then come up a bit. That's a good rule for the nose. So halfway, then up a bit. And then there's different ways you can do the mouth. You could go between the nose and the chin and then find the halfway mark again. But this is not where the lips meet. It will almost never be where the lips meet. It is the bottom of the lip. It's not always accurate, so you really need to think about the individual in question, or imagine. We're imagining an individual. I'm not really looking at anyone here. But so I went ahead and I just darkened a line above the middle. And if you look at these three basic proportions, right, we've got the line for the eyes, the line for the nose, and then the line for the mouth. This is more or less where you're going to find these locations on almost any human face, with some variation, a little bit of variation, not really that much, not as much as you might expect. Those three key features are always going to be there. Oh, so here I've drawn this trapezoid-like kind of thing. I think this thing has a name in geometry. I'm not sure, but you see there are, I don't know, it's kind of like a triangle with the tip cut off. That's a great thing to put right between the eyes because it helps you construct what I'm now drawing are the eye sockets. The eye sockets, of course, if we were looking at a skull, they're the holes where the eyes fit in. And you can kind of construct them like a weird octagon that's not quite an octagon. That's sort of how they're constructed in a really simplistic, basic way. That'll help us put on the eyebrows and place the eyes within there. Kind of on the upper corners, you have this line that is the temple, and you can feel your own temple if you put your hand up there. It kind of comes around to the edge of the eyes and it connects with the cheekbone. So the next thing that I am trying to draw here is the cheekbone. Now here I'm having a little bit of difficulty getting it symmetrical, so I'm going back and I'm looking at both of my lines, and I'm inventing this stuff. You know, I'm making it up, but I need to make sure that I draw it symmetrically. So whatever curve you're drawing, it should come out and go in at the same rate on the other side. You know, that's part of the challenge of drawing the human face is the challenge of drawing lines that are symmetrical. I put a little arrow up where the widest part of the head generally is. Generally speaking, that is the widest part of the head. Is kind of the bulge of the cranium up above the eyes. I think it's important to note that because maybe it's not obvious when our hair is on our head and not really sure it, but that is generally speaking the widest part of the head. Not always. There are a few people whose cheekbones may stick out past the that point, but in general, it's the cranium. Okay, now it's time to draw the eyes. I'll do another demo, an individual video just about eyes, but here's like a super basic eye. Eyes they change a lot from individual to individual, so that's kind of why they're fun to draw, but I'll just do this really basic eye. Notice that this top line is not it's not round. The bottom is kind of round but pushed to the side. There's this little like tear duct shape in the inner corner, and then the circle of the iris is kind of I'm choosing to let the bottom be a little visible, but the top is tucked up under there, and that's something that you will see a lot. Sometimes the bottom is also tucked under the lower lid a little bit. Whatever you do on one side, you got to try to match it on the other, and that can be very challenging. Just do your best. The feeling of a gaze, I was saying in my last video, try to just pull that feeling of a gaze out by keeping the eyes very soft. So don't be in a rush to draw these perfect circles for the irises. Just sort of leave it all soft, and we'll sharpen it up later. I found that to be good advice that one of my painting professors gave me when I was still in college. Okay, I think I'm going to speed up the video now. Now we'll draw the nose. So I ended up dropping the line for the nose a little bit under this line that I had drawn. Just felt a little too high. So again, you don't have to be super firm with these positions. You just have to kind of get it in this relative place. I put a shadow on the base of the nose. A lot of times there's a sort of shadow there. And now I'm going to try to define the three planes of the nose. So the side, the sort of flat part in the middle, and then the other side. And you kind of let it bulge out a little bit towards the tip of the nose. I don't always draw this way, but I'm trying to like just show you these planes in a little more obvious way. I've got these really dark lines that I've drawn on the inner corner, well, let's say, between the nose and the inner corner of the eye. There's usually a pretty dark shadow in there. As I do this and I add the eyebrows on top of that sort of octagon shape, they come up a little bit arched. So now we'll draw the mouth. I like to start the mouth by going beneath the nose and sort of defining this little depression that exists between the nose and the upper lip. It's a good kind of basis to start, and then I like to make that M shape of the upper lip. All lips are different. This is sort of based on my shape of my mouth, so I have this extreme dip in the middle there. Not everyone has that, but there's a lot of people with kind of variations of that shape. You'll usually want to darken the upper lip because the upper lip is almost always in shadow compared to the lower lip, which catches a lot of light. You can put a dark shadow right under the middle of the lower lip. That generally is what we see. And you might shade one side of it depending on the light source, but not quite as much as the upper lip. Oh, a word about the corners of the mouths. Make them like more like little dimples or holes rather than sharp edges. Okay, I'm gonna slow it back down now as I come into the eyes again, so I can point out a few things. There's this sort of like bags under the eyes that pretty much everyone has. Even people who are young have a little bit of that because it just shows the roundness of the eyeball underneath. But I'm gonna show you now how to make sort of a feeling of the eyelashes without being like super cartoony about it. So you just start off with sort of a darker line that leaves a light line in between the bottom of the eye and sort of where these eyelashes occur. You can see I've sort of broken it up as I reach the edge because that's what you see generally. On the top, the line should be darker because the eyelashes are heavier on the top. And then you can just sort of feather them out a little bit here and there. Don't just do like eyelash after eyelash. I mean, generally that doesn't look as good. It doesn't look very real. It looks kind of cartoony. So we'll see on the other side kind of this again. I'm just darkening a little bit here to make it fit more with you know, the eye socket that I'm imagining for this particular figure. Oh, I'm also darkening the iris and the pupil a little bit. I like to just leave the pupil and iris indistinct. I mean, sometimes I'll make them distinct, you know, but a lot of times I don't know, I feel like it looks better when they're not, when they don't kind of stand out quite so much. It's up to you, but, you know, don't overdo it. If the circles don't line up between the iris and the pupil, it looks bad. So yeah, you can see on the other side, I've gone ahead and I've kind of made these little kind of dashy dots on the bottom. Again, leaving that like light area for that sort of rim of the eyelid underneath on the lower eyelid, and those sort of upper lashes that are a little bit longer and concentrated towards the outer edge. There again, I've darkened the pupil and iris, putting a little bit of shadow on the cornea. The cornea also needs to have some shadow for it to look, you know, realistic. Let's see, what else? I'm gonna put in the hairline now. So it doesn't quite track with that line for the temple that we drew. It sort of goes to the inside of the temple a little bit, if you can see that there. You can also feel that on your own head. It's sort of on the, it's in from that line of the bone that the bone makes along the temple. So there's a lot of different hairlines, and this is just some really generic kind of hairline that I'm making for this figure. I don't even know if this is a male or female face. A lot of times, you know, it's the there are some, I think there are some actual differences in the facial construction, but like they're slight. They're not as large as you might think. So I guess let's darken the nose a little bit, and let's look at this area above the lip, between the upper lip and the nose. That needs a little work here. So I want to try to catch a little bit more light on that rim of that little depression in between the lips there. I'm going to darken the nose too. The sort of the base of the nose is usually in a lot more shadow, and it also throws a shadow. There's like a cast shadow usually from the base of the nose. I'll make this one kind of diffused, I think. Although sometimes they're very sharp, and sometimes you can barely see them, you know, depending on the lighting conditions. But yeah, I'm just kind of playing around here, maybe gives a little bit more feeling of shadows. I'll speed this part up a little bit so that it goes a little faster, because I think I'm just pretty much shading it in here. Okay, now let's draw the ears. The ears, the top of the ears is pretty much in alignment with the eyebrows, and the bottom of the ears is pretty much in alignment with the base of the nose. That's a good rule of thumb. There is some, obvious human variation in that. Sometimes the ears are higher. I've seen a couple people where they're significantly higher than the base of the nose, but more or less they tend to be in alignment with the base of the nose and the eyebrows. Obviously, it's tricky to draw, an ear from when you're, seeing it at an angle like this. Just do your best. People are usually like ears and noses. People are always afraid to make them too big because whatever reason. I don't let that stop you. Don't let that make you make little ears and teeny tiny noses, because your faces were just never gonna look strong with tiny little ears and tiny little noses. And they won't look strong. They won't look beautiful. They'll just like look like hideous monsters with no ears as no ears as no ears and no noses. So yeah, I don't know. That's my opinion on the human face. Okay, we'll speed this up again, and then the final thing I'll show you after this section is how to draw the neck and shoulders. To draw the neck, find the place where the angle of the jaw shifts towards the chin and come in just a little under that. Pull the neck, pull it towards those lines, could kind of converge a little bit before they hit the shoulders, around where the chin is. Around where the chin is, they should start to slope outwards. That's, the slope of the shoulders is really important. Everybody has sloping shoulders like that. Nobody has like straight shoulders, like right angles. The reason that the neck looks longer is because where it sort of meets at the collarbone, it's down in under that area, and so that gives the illusion that like necks are a little bit longer than they generally are, at least from the point where they meet with the shoulders. So you've got these two long tendons that meet at the collarbones. I've gone ahead and drawn the collarbones in there. There's also this secondary tendon that comes out from the middle of that one. I should know the names of these things. I always forget these fancy Latin names of all the anatomy. Of course, if you're an artist, you really don't need to know the names of these things. You just need to know they exist and where they are and what shape they are and what they connect to. The name, give it your own name. No, it's cool to know the names, but I mean, seriously, I've learned them so many times and I always forget. So, unless you're teaching, then it's convenient know the name so you can refer to it. Um, I'm sort of defining a little bit of like the shoulder muscle there, as separate from this sort of, there we go. I would like to know that bumpy thing in between the neck and the shoulder. I've known it before, but I forgot it right now. Anyway, these are just some basic sort of shapes. If the person is, sort of anorexic and kind of toned, at the same time, you would see all this. I'm kind of showing it a little more than you would generally see it, just so that you're aware of the anatomy there. Basically, that's pretty much it. That's how you draw a human face with neck and shoulders. And now that you know these sort of basic proportions and anatomical features, go ahead and make your own. It can look totally different from mine, and enjoy the creative process. It's a lot of fun once you learn these things because you can make endless variations, and just enjoy the experience of creating a face and maybe a character. So have fun. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.